Listen to Tyson Fury talking about potentially facing the winner of Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois.
Fabio Wardley, Daniel Dubois. Is that a fight that's on your radar, given that there is a world title in that conversation? Is that a fight that you're looking at for the winner?
Without looking past my man here, who's as dangerous as both of those guys, that's one fight that would definitely be interesting to me, and we definitely can make it because we're all in the same stable. We're all under one banner. So them fights can be made quite easily, I would say. But yeah, just take one fight at a time, because you know many men have failed at the first hurdle looking past opponents, and that's something that I've never ever done in my life. Look past anybody. I always focus on the opponent in hand. So I've got to give Makhmudov his respect, because he's definitely a dangerous hombre and a big scary looking dude for sure.
And he can whack. He can punch.
I'm waiting for Frank to remind Tyson of that in the future, that it's going to be easy to make because they're in the same stable when the broadcasting deals come into play, and Tyson's an exception to the broadcasting deal that Queensberry have with DAZN or whatever else. We'll see. Do you expect Tyson, Paulie, to fight the winner of Dubois, Wardley?
I would be shocked if he doesn't. You know, I think the ultimate goal for Fury is another crack at Usyk.
Right.
And I think the only way you make that interesting, because you've got your 0-2 against them, and so you've got to generate that international appeal for that fight, I think, is to pick up a piece of the heavyweight title. And so the winner of Wardley and Dubois is going to have a lot of momentum,
yep.
win a piece of the heavyweight championship, and also have that momentum. Fury winning this fight gives him a little bit of momentum going into that fight. Then he can steal that momentum if he beats the winner of that fight, because that momentum that the winner of that fight will have will be a very good amount of momentum.
What did you think of the fights with? I mean, you've touched upon it earlier on in the show about the fact that he's not a diminished force as a result of the fights with Usyk. He hasn't been beaten up and handing over the baton to the next generation and a clearly vanquished fighter. But when you look back on the two fights with Usyk, what were your takeaways? And are you keen to see a third with Usyk?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be against it. Here's my one criticism of what boxing's doing recently. It's becoming sort of an elitist type of thing, where you got the up-and-comers who are trying to break through, now not getting a shot. While the old times boxing, the up-and-comers that are breaking through eventually pick up the older guys, beat them, and keep the wheel turning. Now, you're starting to see in boxing, the guys who are already in the money, the guys who are established, sort of have this Hollywood feel like, I got to fight one of my own peers instead of these young, hungry lions. But this is the way the sport continues. If you don't let these guys come in here, you know, the wheel keeps turning. You know, you saw Canelo not doing that.
Yeah.
You saw Gervonta Davis not really doing that. And I feel like, okay, I do have an interest in Fury and Usyk, but at the same time, I want to see Tama. I want to see Jalalov, who nobody talks about Jalalov, mind you, okay? I want to see Caballel, who's getting a shot at Usyk at least. But I want to see these other guys sort of start to enter the fray. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where they start to put themselves into the mix, because eventually these are going to be the guys that are moving in. Well, you can't just, when we're done playing, then you guys can play. That's not the way boxing is supposed to work. No other sport works that way. Not even boxing used to work that way. Now it's starting to sort of move into that direction. So I am interested in Usyk and Fury, because, you know, there is entertainment value to it.
Yep.
But I don't want to see these other guys locked out. I don't even, granted, I don't even like to see a guy like Itama saying, Usyk won't fight me. No, bro. Yeah. You go fight Jalalov, okay? You don't get to jump all the line just because you're the guy who everybody's talking about. Listen, everybody's got an agenda. Everybody's got an angle. Right. So I do want to see things moved in a way where they build correctly, and then there's a real excitement factor. Usyk and Fury, you know what? If Fury does get the winner of Wardley and Dubois, and he's able to win that fight,
then there's a reason,
he does earn the third fight.
There's a reason, isn't there? I mean, Ben Shalom was talking earlier on, again, referencing Ben, who's apparently going to be a football agent as well, by the way. About a monster of an undercard. You hearing about the undercard at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
No, the only fight that I've heard that's rumoured to be taking place is for the British heavyweight title, and that's Richard Riakporhe versus Jamie TKB.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I haven't heard anything, no.
Fury's comeback is one of 4 big heavyweight fights that are coming up. We've obviously got Wardley versus Dubois, Fury versus Makhmudov, we've got Atoma versus Jermaine Franklin, and we've got TKV potentially versus Richard Riakporhe. Fury is one of 4 big heavyweight fights coming up. Obviously, we've got Wardley versus Dubois, we've got Atoma versus Franklin, and we've got Jamie TKV versus Richard Riakporhe. Wardley's all signed, sealed and delivered now, isn't it, Dubois?
Yeah, we've got Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder. coming
of
up
course.
as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so, Wardley's all signed, sealed,
So we've got
delivered.
5.
We've got 5,
Yeah.
Wardley's all signed, sealed, delivered. I think that's May the 9th up in Manchester. I believe that fight is taking place. So, look, listen, that's an interesting fight. It's a great fight. You know, Fabio Wardley will start the favourite with momentum, with what he's going through. Daniel Dubois coming off that defeat to Alexander Usyk. But I don't think that will affect him too much. Wardley does get hit. Daniel Dubois can whack, so it gives him a big chance. Although you have to go with Wardley, it's one of those fights you go, you know, 2 Brits for the world heavyweight title, great fight.
Absolutely. Where are you, Paulie, looking down the barrel of a Wardley perspective on this fight?
From Wardley perspective, I think it's a shootout of a fight. And I think Wardley, is intelligent to get Dubois right now because you don't know how Dubois' mindset is at coming off the knockout loss to Usyk. Because let's remember, Dubois had a lot of momentum before the Usyk rematch. And the Usyk rematch was you were almost looking at it like, okay, is he catching him now at the right time?
Well, he lost his momentum a little bit, didn't he? Because he didn't have the fight with Joseph Parker. So he didn't have that fight opportunity.
Yeah.
He beat Joshua, did a great job there.
That,
and
but
then carried
he
forward.
also won a bunch of fights when he was the underdog. So he had started to take that momentum over. And you were
Ergovic.
really talking about
Ergovic,
him a lot. Either Jarrell Miller, Ergovic. He stopped. I think he'd stopped Miller as well. You know, he was in good form. So to get knocked out. You remember the first fight, the reason he had the rematch is because the first fight was kind of controversial. To get knocked out the way he was knocked out, I have a curiosity about where his confidence is at, where his head is at. Because Dubois is sort of like that. You know, he's kind of hot and cold, as we've seen in his career. So I think Wardley getting Dubois right now is kind of smart because Dubois, if he starts picking up momentum, can be dangerous. But if you have Dubois, who's an unsure Dubois, he sort of can look the polar opposite of a guy who has all the momentum.
But it's interesting.
And especially that Wardley can punch and get him out of there.
It's interesting because obviously a change of direction to Tony Sims and then back to Don Charles.
Yeah.
And we had Don Charles in the studio the other day talking specifically before he joined back with Daniel Dubois about Daniel Dubois fighting Fabio Wardley. Let's have a listen to that.
All the current live heavyweights who are coming through, Daniel still walks through all of them.
You think he beats Fabio?
Most definitely. Easy work.
Well, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people thought about Fabio. And I think probably Joe Parker thought it was going to be the same.
Easy work. I can say that
do you
for a lot of reasons.
OK, fair enough. Paul, pick up the comments from there. Easy work. What do you think of that?
He probably had no reason to say it as well because he wasn't part of the team at the time. You know, he obviously likes Daniel. He obviously got a lot of faith in Daniel Dubois, and he knows more than
It's not
any
easy
of
work,
us
though, is it?
because no, Fabio Wardley's not an easy fight for any heavyweight out there. I don't think. Not easy, should I say, even for Usyk. But it's also what Paulie's saying is correct, and I've said it time and time again until I'm blue in the face. This battle, fight, whatever you want to call it, whatever way it goes on the night, could come down to that, and could come down to that. And as I've said in the past with Dubois, I have my issues with him. One thing Fabio Wardley's not going to do is back off, take a step back, quit, or look for a way out. He is there to the final bell, as has been proven
and I think
in
that's
previous
why
fights. And that's why I think it's a great
Don
fight.
was saying what he was saying, because he's saying, listen, it's all about mindset. Don recognises that. It's not about the physicalities with Daniel Dubois. Never has been. Yeah. You know, he's a big, strong guy. And, like, if you get his mind right and he's that self-belief there, and that's what Don will be working on with him.
His mind right. There's not many that should beat him ever.
No. It's then a shootout because Fabio Wardley is there to get hit, and Fabio Wardley's there. You know, he's shown a lot of character as well, and that's why you have to lean towards Wardley because he's got the character. He's shown the character, and he can tough it out.
Is it? I mean, we've discussed, without wanting to be disrespectful or to sit there as resident psychologists, about the wiring of Daniel Dubois and not thinking that he carries losses the way certain people do in terms of the damage to him. Do you think it's the right fight for Daniel to go into?
I mean, at this point, I don't know. I would have probably, because of the psychological issues, I would have maybe took one in between, especially a puncher like Wardley. Dubois is a strange one to me, though, you know, because if you look at even in the Usyk knockout, I observed something in the Usyk knockout in the rematch. You see Usyk celebrating a center ring. It was a magical moment for him. He celebrates in the ring. Yeah. Dubois just gets up and walks right past him, like just like, I mean, I personally, if I'm knocked out like that, I would have went around by the ropes. I would have got out of the way. I would have stayed out of the picture. Like I would have just, okay, I've taken my lump. I've not got knocked out. Let me move away from this. He just walked right past the middle of the ring, as if like nothing happened. Like, oh well, I got knocked out. Like I don't understand the psychology of that, and that's where Dubois confuses me because he can look so ferocious at times, but then sometimes he can look so domesticated. Wardley's ferocious.
And I looked at it from a different perspective. I looked at it as how can you walk in a perfect straight line back to that corner?
Yeah.
If you can walk in a perfect straight line back to the corner, you can jump up on 8 or 9, and you can
Do you think, Paul, that he? I mean,
was
the
my point.
big question about Daniel and the debate, and sometimes it's an unfair one, and it was answered in the fight post the Usyk fight, because I was there when he fought Joe Joyce, and there was a lot of vilification, and his corner should have looked after him better and perhaps taken him out and maybe avoided some of that vilification. People like David Hay piled in and didn't know the backstory of a broken eye socket and all that sort of stuff. Then it sort of replicates itself again in people's minds, because once a narrative is seeded about something, press and people are lazy. They've made their mind up, but they keep on recanting it, bringing it out again. And when he fought Usyk, the thought process was again potentially the gag reflex came in. He didn't have the mental attributes or the ability to overcome the adversity. Is he mentally strong enough, Daniel Dubois, to go in against Fabio, who we know is mentally resilient, who we know has a certain outlook, we know has been constantly in every single fight except Justice Hooney being the underdog and overcome and his backstory is he's a white collar fighter, he's never going to be given, and of course he goes in and he beats Joseph Parker and rips up that narrative. Do you think there's any jeopardy in the fact that Fabio is so mentally resilient, overcomes all of that backstory, all the adversity that he's had to experience in becoming what he's become, and then Daniel Dubois' mental makeup? Do you think there's anything in that?
In my opinion, if the fight goes late, yes. If the fight gets past 6-7 rounds and it's a war and it's a tough fight, I think when things start getting tough and difficult late and he starts to tire late and the fight gets at, then I think I've seen him take a little step back or look for a way out. And that to me is probably symbolism of what's been happening in the past. When things get hard in the gym or when things get really hard, it feels like you're being forced to do things and pushed. You're looking for the side door. Early on, if that's a shootout, I don't think there'll be any problems mentally with him. I think early on, if it's a shootout...
Because he can cope with that.
I think he'd be okay with that. That's just a fight. And the size of him, the attributes he's got, the tools he's got, he's a big lump as well and he can fight. Make no mistakes about that. Never doubted any of that. If that comes early, I think, like you said with Ergovic, early on, he'll be okay. If it gets into the latter rounds and the tiredness and the fatigue creeps in, then I think we could see things. But I think it's an unbelievable fight. I think it's a very good fight.
My question to you guys, because you guys are here from the UK, is Wardley just a world-class puncher, or can Wardley be a world-class fighter? Can he be a world-class fighter?
I think he can be a world-class fighter for sure. I think that, absolutely. Like, he's shown character. Like, he's got this rare thing, and you'll understand this, Paulie, that when a fight is not going your way and it's round after round, and you're looking at him, like when he boxed Justice Hooney, I'm looking at him, he's walking back to the corner after round 5, after round 6, his head's down, you're thinking, he's near breaking point. Every fighter's got a pain threshold. Every fighter, he's getting the soul drawn out of him. You know what I mean? You're looking at that and you go like, he's got to quit at some point. At some point, he's going to go, I've had enough, I'm done. But he doesn't do that. He's one of those rare breed that we have in our game that you go, he doesn't lose spirit, he doesn't lose heart. You can get into round 10 and he's 10 rounds behind, or 9 rounds behind, getting into round 10, and the kid can still push forward and find something for someone. That's a world-class attribute.
The nose injuries had in the past as well.
Absolutely.
There's no quitting and there's no stepping back.
He's shown that against Fraser Clark in that first fight. He was tough and he hung in there. There was moments when it looked like he was going to get beat, but pulled himself back. Justice Hooney was a classic, was winning round after round. So you go, when you show that sort of character and you're a world-class puncher, you've got a chance right up until that 12th round. And I think that is a rare attribute that
he is improving boxing-wise as well. His ability levels seem to be improving. He doesn't look out of place when he's in these mega fights now with the belts.
And the Parker win will have certainly raised his confidence level.
Absolutely.
So who wins this fight? Start with you, Spence.
You have to go with Fabio Wardley just on momentum at the moment. But I've picked up on something that Paul was saying there. You go, the first 6 rounds of this fight is a shootout. And it can go either way. That's a 50-50 fight because Daniel Dubois is a dangerous guy for any heavyweight on the planet in those first 6 rounds, especially someone that stands in front of him. Fabio Wardley is that guy. He will stand in front of him. So you go, it's going to go either way. But the longer the fight goes, I think only when you look at characters of both guys, you go, that's when Daniel Dubois loses heart. Fabio Wardley doesn't lose heart. It actually shows a lot of spirit in there. And for that reason only, you have to go for Fabio Wardley. But you can't write Daniel off. It's one of those great fights.
But he didn't lose heart against Baby Miller, did he?
And he didn't lose heart against Filip Hrgovic either. No, that's what I'm saying. But I think that Fabio's just has that little bit extra in edge when it comes to that second half of the fight and those penultimate rounds. When you get into those rounds, 10, 11, 12, when it, The
only question is, has Fabio been hit as hard by anybody as Daniel Dubois?
That's the point. He might get hit and stay hit.
I like a bet on the boxing, on the football, on whatever. If I have a bet on that fight, it will be Wardley early, Wardley late, Dubois early. I'd still back Dubois early if
absolutely.
it becomes a shootout in that with the power-wise, strength-wise. Now, the thing with my opinion, my issues with him have been in the Joyce fight and the Usyk fight. In those fights, there's an argument with the Joyce fight aside, but he wasn't expected to win the Usyk fight. I think when it got hard,
That's right.
He was expected to probably beat Tagovich. He was expected to beat
Joe
Miller.
Joyce.
He was probably expected to beat Joe Joyce. And I think it's just a bit of a bully mentality where the bully started to get bullied late on.
When he beat Ergovich was undefeated. Was Ergovich not undefeated?
Ergovich is a very good fighter.
Ergovich was an avoided guy. That's a low-key good win. At the moment he beat Ergovich, it was a very difficult fight.
Conundrum is that the one time that Fabio Wardley was expected to win was the one time that he nearly lost.
Yeah.
In terms of Justice Hooney.
But Hooney,
because I was there, and he was.
Hooney's a little bit of a mover though. But with Daniel Dubois, he is
not going
dangerous
anywhere,
when
is
someone
he?
stands in front of him. That is when he's at his most dangerous, and that's why you're just there and you're going, I don't know what way
Could you
that's
tell
going
me,
to go.
Paulie, who's going to win this fight?
I don't know, I lean Dubois.
come on, no
I lean
offense,
Dubois. I lean Dubois.
Live exclusively on DAZN. On the world's biggest stage, a champion with a disputed crown. A self-proclaimed king without a throne. Both have a point to prove. Can one of the biggest names in boxing finally be crowned world champion?
It's going to be a hell of a fight.
Barrios versus Garcia, February 21st. Watch only on DAZN.